Good morning, everyone. I hope it's a morning for everybody. We were just having a chat before that how many people we have from all around the world. And hopefully most of the guys are from the UK and Europe. So you have a very good and fresh start of the morning. And I would like to welcome you to this edition of CogX. I'm super excited to basically be the MC of this stage. I'm just saying this is stage because we have 18 stages and more than 1,000 speakers. I was super excited to see Robert Downey Jr. And I was just trying to think of how to really understand where we are and what we're doing. And for me, it's like an Avengers movie. We have 1,000 speakers and 18 stages. And that's like literally watching an Avenger movie. It's like you just don't know how many stars you have on stage. You don't know which one to watch. So I totally encourage you guys to take a look at the agenda. Try to make sure that you're not missing any speakers. And at the same time, for the next 3 days, you're going to have a lot of different opportunities to go through lots of different interesting opportunities that organizers made for us. We are going to have a very interesting topic of how do we get the next 10 years right. And that is something that I'm personally very, very excited to know, because due to COVID, I don't even know what exactly we're going to do in the next 5 days or 5 years. This is going to be something that we all have to work on. This is something that hopefully we all have to do our best and try to make sure that all of us together are going to be a positive force of nature. We have lots of super interesting stages that even me, myself, I would be more than happy to even get to know them way better. We have, let's just say, lots of different international speakers, and at the same time, topics that covers things all the way from net zero to artificial intelligence, leadership. At the same time, there are super interesting awards that I also totally recommend going to that part. We had a very interesting opening on, let's just say, the new application that CogX is putting out. And also, unfortunately, if you guys are on Android, you still have to wait for it, but it is available on iOS. And I totally recommend also downloading it if you are interested in online events and podcasting and, let's just say, getting your news from the right place. We have a very interesting first speakers, and I was also going through their whole ideas, and we were having a chat. So I'm really sure that this is going to be something that for your Monday morning, this is going to really freshen up yourself, and at the same time put you in the mood for having 3 days of full of different interesting opportunities, and at the same time, try to adjust it to your other schedule. Try to make sure that you use the hashtag CogX 2021 and follow us on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, and all different social media. And try to make sure that on the Q&A part, you are also going to contribute, give us your ideas, your feedbacks, engage with the speakers and the moderators, because definitely whatever we're going to do is not going to be as good without you and without your feedbacks. And I'm very excited to also introduce the moderator and her really, really good speaker. And one other thing also I have to say is that talking about gender equality and inclusiveness and diversity, I'm very excited about this event because all of these, let's just say, sessions are very, let's just say, well curated, and kudos to all these organizers. I know that this is a really tough thing to do, and they did a really, really good job. So I'm not going to take your time more than that. We're going to have our first virtual panel that I'm just making it virtual because you also have to know that we have some in-person events. We have some events that they are hybrid. So make sure that you also know exactly which event is going to happen in which style. But if you're watching it online, don't worry about it. It's all going to be available for you via the platform that you're watching right now. So the first part is going to be profile on the Stack and Vinted founder. That is going to be presented to you by Manuela, a visionary collective leader at Azkua. I'm very excited about even how to pronounce it, and I'm sure that she can tell you exactly the story behind the name of the company. It's really fascinating, and I'm sure even the speech is going to be even more fascinating. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Manuela on stage. Hey.
Thank you so much. And you got it right. You pronounced it beautifully, Azkua.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much for having
yours.
me.
And I'm super excited to be in the background and watching your great speech with your speaker. Good luck.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm super, super delighted to be able to introduce my wonderful speaker for this fireside chat, who is Sharmadean Reid. And she's basically a former fashion stylist and a brand consultant who started WA as a hip hop magazine, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Sharmadean, you have to tell me in a second, as a hip hop magazine for girls in 2006 while still at university. And she basically set that up as a platform for women and street culture, and she developed this further into a global network of women, and she founded WA Nails as a side project in 2009. You're laughing, I'm doing this wrong. Is it W-A-H?
No, I'm not laughing because of that. I'm laughing because it all seems so long ago, but yeah.
I love it. Good. Yes. So you did that in 2009, but yes, you can read all of that in her wonderful LinkedIn profile. I think I would much rather hear from you, Sharmadean. Yes. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about what made that beautiful mixture of what I understand is publishing, beauty, and tech. So give us a bit of a flavor. How did that work for you?
Thank you so much, Manuela, and thank you so much for having me this morning. Very excited to be here. So yeah, you're completely correct. I graduated from Central St Martin's with a degree in communication, and while I was there, I was very new in London, really excited about going out like any student does, but was really struck by the misogyny that I found in the club industry, particularly in hip hop. And I know it sounds almost very provincial, but in Wolverhampton, the town where I'm from, I never really thought about equality because I had everything I wanted. I felt very empowered. I had a big family, a very female-led family. And it was only when I got to London that I realized that there were actually quite a lot of systems, communities, and networks that I was locked out from for various reasons, mainly being female and being Black. So I kind of used my teenage angst to create this magazine by hand. It was the first time I'd used the computer software, InDesign, Adobe InDesign. I taught myself on a Mac Mini how to do it, and I absolutely loved it. I loved making a magazine as a device to share my views on the world, and it gained some traction. It gained quite a lot of global traction. I graduated, I started working for some of the best, most amazing, innovative brands in the world. And then I had an idea to open a nail salon to essentially bring all of the readers of this side project magazine that I'd made to a physical location. And that's when the nail salon was born. The nail salon beauty took off even crazier than the magazine. And actually what I found was that beauty was an incredible way to bring the audience into the space, but then when they got there, we would give them a flavor of our ideas and views of the world. So it was almost like getting your nails done and sitting next to somebody for an hour and being able to talk to them for a whole hour is a privilege in the retail industry. You know, by the end of it, they were fully on our female empowerment message. And like you said, this was 2009, so it wasn't trending. It wasn't the era of
really? Yes,
t-shirt feminism or feminism being, you know, used as another consumerist tool. It was very, very early days. And what we were doing at the salon was no different to salons, you know, in Paris in the 18th century. It was no different to women's talking groups in the 60s, 70s and 80s. It was just done in this super cute, fun, millennial girl way.
Fantastic. That sounds brilliant. And as you said, like that feels like such a long time ago. I know so much has happened to you since then, and especially last year, right? So bring us up to date. What's the newest version of you?
Yeah, so from having this side project of a salon, which then took over my life, I began to learn a lot more, not only about the issues that women face in terms of employment, education, childcare, because I employed over 100 women during those 10 years. And I just got to see firsthand, like, what would be stopping them from achieving their goals. That was the first thing. The second thing was that I saw a huge opportunity for how to use technology and social media to grow a small business, and in our case, a small beauty business. So I came up with the idea of Beautystack to merge those things together. I was like, how can I use visual, image-based social media mechanics mixed with a booking system that therefore economically empowers beauty professionals, because they're not working for a minimum wage, they can actually control their own earnings. And that's how Beautystack was born. Unfortunately, we launched it during the pandemic when close contact were at zero. But you know, we were incredibly reactive, and within 7 days we'd created virtual events for our pros. Like
7 days.
The first, our first event was like March the 29th or 30th, and it was how to paint flame nail designs with one of our most favorite pros. We had 300 people bought tickets all around the world to attend this event, and I was like, oh, okay,
we're on to something here.
Let me learn Zoom. Let me figure out how to do this. The other events that took off, we did one on April the 1st on how to survive, business survival for the year for our users.
Yes.
And then the third event we did, which took off massively, was May the 1st, I think. We did a 12-hour business summit. And what I realized after every lockdown was announced and our metrics were just essentially like, you know, very lumpy, was that the place where we as a company have genuine product market fit is with our content, events, information, both around highlighting professionals and profiling them, but because people want to see cool women doing cool things, but also through our business and financial education, because we had accountants come and talk to our users, we had lawyers, we had people, you know, basically passing Boris's briefings every Monday morning, what it means for the beauty industry. And when the third lockdown, the November lockdown was announced, I was like, right, if we don't do something, we're not going to survive this ourselves. So then we pivoted into the Stack world. And when I came back off Christmas holidays, I came back to the team and I said, hey guys, we're going to make a newspaper. And that's what we're doing now. Yeah. And so the Stack world was born.
Fantastic, right? And it brought you back to your roots, back to the magazine world again, and really shifting from there. So, talking about this, right? You were talking about news, and I know you're passionate to get more young women engaged in the news. How do you do that? What's your goal there?
Well, it was really interesting, because I think the year of 2020 was the first time that my audience of mainly beauty, marketing, creative women were politicized. I think it was the first time that they paid attention that the, you know, majority men in Parliament have, you know, huge impact on what they can do, how they live their lives, and for the beauty industry in particular, which took a long time to be recognised by the government as a kind of independent, separate industry compared to just like a blanket of all services being closed. Our users started to realise the connection between what goes on in London and what happens in the rest of the UK and how it affects them. So we found that during that period, they were actually hungry for more information. But what they needed was somebody to be the bridge and explain it in a way that they understand. And I think it's that storytelling, removing jargon, breaking concepts down into things that are relatable. That to me was a real Kickstarter for thinking like, what would a publication look like if it was current affairs and news for women, essentially to help them understand business, politics, finance, etc. So I think really the way to engage young women in news and current affairs, and there are incredible organizations already doing that, by the way. You know, it's not like that this is a complete white space. I think there's so many different community groups who want to hear from their community leaders, so to speak. And for us, I feel like firstly, my group wants aspiration. So they want to see women in the news represented in a positive light. The recent media furore around Naomi, the tennis player, shows how when women are portrayed in the media negatively, they don't want to engage with it. I actually think that was a perfect example where she's saying, I need to protect my mental health because these people, i.e. the media, don't make me feel good. And it's been making me reflect on how, since I was a child and I started reading the newspaper, probably age 13, started reading broadsheets, I was like, and then tabloids were always in my home from when I was born. I was like, how much has this made me feel good versus made me feel fearful or shameful, etc.? So I think the first thing to do is create aspirational content, helping women see other women who look like them, who sound like them, who have similar career paths to them, or who are where they want to be. The second thing is to give them the knowledge and information. So not assuming that someone who, is about to vote fully understands what the voting process means. And I think American media does this really well in the form of explainer journalism, in terms of sharing, breaking down the process of what it actually, like sharing the news, but also breaking, what does this actually mean? And I think that's important as well. So you've got aspiration, you've got knowledge, and then I think having the network is important. And to me today, media companies are like brands, and we want to be part of those brands. They're actually the most trusted and wonderful and lovely brands when they are lovely. I think that giving them the network as well is super important. And I think, for me, when I think of our demographic of women from around 21 to 40, that's how I think that we will make the Stack world a success.
Very good. And I saw whilst reading your profile, your very impressive profile, that one of your real ideas that you want to bring to this world is sort of like helping the women who haven't got access to big marketing budgets and break down this kind of hierarchy that's still many times in place in the beauty industry, and grow women's economy, but sort of like almost grassroots, but that's my word, right? Sort of like really helping these people who go independently away from the bigger names and set up something by themselves to support them in a way that they can shine, even if it's just a single person doing something special.
Yeah, I think that what the last 10 years has done, and even more so in the last 1 year, is show how a creative and passion economy can really be beneficial in terms of flexible working, managing your own income, having purpose, but also having social connections. And all of those things I think are really, really important to women. So what I mean by that is many of our audience tell me that they started their business or they started their self-employment journey mainly because of childcare issues, of not feeling heard at work, or various, gender pay gap, general inequality at work. They're like, screw this, I'm going to choose an alternative path. If you're not going to help me on my journey, I'm going to help myself. And what the last year has shown is actually that redundancies have hit women like
much worse.
Much worse. Last financial crash, it was 100,000 women that lost their jobs. In this pandemic now, it's 178,000. So that's almost like double. And it's crazy to think like women who have left the workforce during this period, like what's going to be for them on the other side. So I think actually there's a huge opportunity there for the next generation of self-employed women, of the passion economy, of new founders coming out of this thinking, well, I'm going to be resilient, I'm going to keep going, and actually I'm going to start something of my own. So with the Stack world, we're like, how can we help them on that journey? How can we help them step into their power? What information do they need? And kind of going beyond a slogan, you go girl, motivational quotes, which are all over social media. I think motivational quotes didn't help me choose my pension. Like that's really now. So that's the type of information that we're keen on sharing with our audience, and kind of
practical that they can imply.
Trying to use social media as a engagement tool while sending them to a destination where they can go deeper when they're at that point in their life journey.
Great. And that brings me to the question I wanted to ask, because you really also like your media to be co-creative, right? So because you want to work away from this one funnel, sort of like I feed you what I think, you want to make it more interactive. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think ever since the age of reader letters to newspapers, you know, media has been co-creating on some level, or at least listening to their audience. And it's been shown with, like, you know, what happens if you do it at scale with something like Huffington Post, all the way to, like, recently with Tortoise Media and their thinkings, how co-creating and listening to your audience, your reader, can help create a better product. And to me, that's actually complete 101 tech startup, you know, company building, is listen to your user. It's actually one of our company principles, is talk to the user. Always stay close to them so that you know what they're thinking, feeling, and how you can best help them on their journey. We actually want to go one step even further. And when I look at my favorite publications, the most interesting thing sometimes is the discourse, is the comments box, right? It's the chat that happens about the articles. And one of the things I always found quite interesting was how I could never click a profile on a comment box and actually see what that person's talking about elsewhere, who they are, you know, could we do business together? Do we have things in common, etc.? So what we're actually doing is creating a network that is essentially attached to the media platform. And, you know, we're doing one app store launch today, hopefully, and then over the next few weeks, you'll see the product develop. But my thoughts and feelings on it are the biggest companies and brands in the world, as I said, that are loved are like media brands. You feel viscerally attached and emotionally attached to it. So why can't you be in a community with other people who are attached to it in a digital way? So I feel like, you know, the way that, for me, we're going to move this forward and move this to the next stage is have it so our entire readership is digitally connected in their own mini network. Well, hopefully massive, not mini, but, you know. and I'm really excited about that, because what it means is that not only can I see who's commenting, but I can know what their mission is, what their thoughts and feelings are, etc. And then, I'm really excited about that. I think it will turn, as I said, our audience and our readership into a network.
Nice, very, very nice. That's fantastic. Now, I could talk for you forever, and I've got hundreds of questions, right? But maybe for the last 10 minutes that we have together, I'll give you the choice of two, and maybe we'll get to both of them, right? I saw on LinkedIn you had an article about getting stuff wrong, and how 2020 showed you a little bit, like, you know, what business also is, right? It's not just all winning. And the other question I was writing down is I saw in online in a TechCrunch article that you quietly picked up 4 million funding. And I thought, that's interesting. I would just like to hear, like, how do you quietly pick up 4 million of seed funding?
I'll try and answer both of them. So
great.
In terms of the getting stuff wrong, I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy, and the idea of self-reflection is really important to me, sometimes to my detriment because I can overthink it. But I like to have my year punctuated with a few rituals, you know. On my birthday, I do lots of reflective exercises. At the end of the year, I do lots of reflective exercises. And it's incredibly important for me to ensure that I am always learning. The thing that would stress me out the most is if I had zero progression. If I looked at what I wrote last year and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm still doing the same mistakes over and over again. So, you know, it's that kind of thing where, like, you can't improve what you can't measure, right? So by documenting the things that I got wrong for the year, I hope to both subconsciously and consciously improve them the following year. And I also think it's just important to share the journey. You know, there's a lot of hype onto the funding stuff. There's a lot of hype in the tech industry. And actually, really bloody hard work. And
Yeah.
You've got to be crazy, like a little bit like off the charts to do this, because it really does consume your entire life and all of your friends' life. And you're in this vortex and, you know, you can't stop thinking about your business and you're like, it is really intense. So I kind of half want people to be supported on their journey by learning from my mistakes. Some of them are really obvious as well. And then half I'm like semi-deterring people, like, are you sure this is for you? Because it's really, really hard. But actually on that point of the learning from mistakes, one of the things I found is that when you're a woman in tech, you tend not to have the same networks as a man in tech. And what that means is the networks you need for intense growth and scale are actually harder to access. So some of the mistakes that I made in hindsight were like so obvious. I'm almost like, why didn't any of the people around me tell me that? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, there's so many, why didn't any of the people in my network who are
like Sharmadean, come on, you've got to focus over there on this network. You've got to get to meet these people.
Just like really, really like simple things. So that, I think it's important that you consider that a network is actually a source of information, and information is the best currency you can play with. And actually the more information you have, the better. And actually it makes me understand why investors often back second time founders, right? Because now I'm like, I can
obvious.
do this. You know what I mean? It's really obvious what to do now. So that was the first thing. And we've had so much traction of that article generating traffic to the site. I used to write it on Medium, but now I'm obviously going to write it on my own platform. So like now, you know, it's a really good traffic driver actually to the site, which is mistakes. Then to your second point on quietly raising, that we're actually about to raise again. And I think it is possible to do it quietly, because fundraising is not necessarily a milestone, right? It's just like the thing you have to be able to have the freedom to experiment with your ideas if you're at pre-seed stage or seed stage, and to essentially give oxygen to your business so that you can scale and grow and invest in the things that matter. I don't think it needs to be a big showy press thing, although, you know, press love to do that. So yeah, we were really you know, excited to work with Index Ventures, who backed our seed round. And I didn't see the point in announcing it at the time, because when you do announce it, you just get loads of more emails, and I hate emails. As you know, you know I hate emails because I don't reply to them. I'm terrible. I need to sort that out. But there's just too much information. So the problem is when you announce a funding round, you get loads of more emails, and I'm like, no, now's the time to actually do the
work, right? Yes.
We are raising now, so I guess I have to like rethink that strategy at some point. But yeah, that was it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And to close off, what would you say for anybody who's watching you currently on the sidelines thinking, I've got an idea, there's something I really would like to, you know, realize. How do they get started? What tip would you give them to be brave or bold?
I always think, what can I do in the next 24 hours, in the next week, in the next month, and in the next year? And it's like in 24 hours, you might be able to get a landing page up. In a week, you might be able to get an email funnel set up. You know, in a month, you might be able to get your first 10 customers. And in a year, you know, you'll have a fully fledged business. So I like to break it down into bite-sized chunks to be able to think, what can I do instantly today to get this going?
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to have had the pleasure to talk to you and find out more about your business. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. See you soon.
So thank you very much. It was really interesting. I mean, we start kind of with a very interesting idea, and how much diversity and inclusion sometimes can lead to great opportunities. And we enjoyed, let's just say, a very interesting and in-depth conversation about how ideas can lead into opportunities, even in the midst of pandemic. We're going to have a quick break between our sessions, and hopefully we're just going to be back with you guys in half an hour. So stay tuned and see you soon.